Thank you. I'm seeing some answers coming in. I see Vicky is saying planning. Let me refresh and see if we have any that have come in on Menti. Thank you, Kimani. I see you're saying the link between the technical and the non-technical on a product. Yeah. The process of planning, managing a product or a service. That's true. Yeah, that's some. So customer journey, ensuring a product works. Yes, that's true. Stakeholder management. Yeah. Overseeing the product development. Yes. Right. One more minute in case you still want to put in something that comes to your mind when you think of product management. It could even be an assumption or a myth or anything that you've ever had. So this would also be good for us to know, and then we'll address it later. Angelica, I see you say growth. Terence says the life cycle of a product, impact, overseeing a product from beginning to the end, and also how consumers use the product. That's true. Product owner, yes, somehow we'll talk more about that. Okay, great. I think we've got a good set of responses, and I can see Agile. Yes, I've seen Agile. I can see that most of you have an idea of what product management is, so that's nice. I'll stop sharing this screen now and then share my slides for today. Just give me a second. Okay, great. I hope that you can be able to see my slides. Yeah, we've done the icebreaker, so I can skip to this. So welcome to today's presentation. It's scheduled from 10 to 11. So the first 30 or 35 minutes, I'll be talking through and just giving you an idea of what product management is, the different roles of a product manager, and what they don't do, and we'll talk more about that. And then for the last 20 or 15 minutes, we'll answer the questions that had been pre-submitted on Instagram, or also the questions that you'll have on chat. So in case you have any questions as we go along, or when we get to the end, you can put them in the chat and then we'll address them. Or automatically your mics and your videos are muted, but in case you would like to speak or turn on your video, you can just put it in the chat. Then I think Susan will organize that. And then if you'd like to join us on video, you're free to do so. Okay, so what we'll cover today is, I'll start first by introducing myself. I think it's important to let you know who's talking to you before she actually starts talking to you. We'll also go through what product management is, the definition, some assumptions that come with the role or the term, and other similar sounding sort of roles like project management and product development and other things. Then we'll also go through the skills and the knowledge that you need as a product manager. So the soft skills, the transferable skills that you can have from other roles or other industries, and then the technical skills that you need to succeed, especially if you're going to be a product manager working in tech. Then finally, I'll take a few minutes to talk about how to get started as a product manager. So if you want to move from another role, or even how to grow your skills as a product manager, you want to get to the senior level or a managerial level. Then to close off, we'll have the question and answer session. So first, I'll talk a bit about myself. My name is Joy B. I currently work as a product manager at the Microsoft Africa Development Office. That's the Microsoft office here in Nairobi. I have a BSc in Maths and Computer Science from JKUAT, and I'm also pursuing my Master's in Computer Science right now from the University of East London. Immediately after my undergraduate, I did a couple of certifications in AI and machine learning. I was working in data science then, and I also did a Scrum Master certification in one of my previous roles. In terms of work experience, I started out in backend engineering. I was working as a DevOps engineering intern for a marketing company that was using digital marketing. Then I moved on to a role called a solutions architect, which dealt mainly with planning out the software and how different systems will interact with each other. I did that at Shimba Technologies. Sorry, that's a typo. It's Shimba Technologies. And then later on, I did the same at Safaricom. Then my current role is at Microsoft, where I'm a product manager. And I'll talk a bit about how the title of that role changed as from the time I got in and up to now. Other than work and school, I'm also really interested in mentorship and giving back to people, especially students who are interested in pursuing tech courses. So I'm part of a mentorship program called Kamilimu. I'm part of the management team. It's a structured 8-month mentorship program for students who are either taking IT, computer science, or tech-related courses, or even taking other courses and are interested in somehow aligning that to tech. So the mentorship program focuses on building their professional capacities, training them on how to present themselves and package themselves better, in the aim of making them more competitive when it gets to applying for jobs. So if you know anyone who's in university and this sounds like something that they would benefit from, feel free to plug them. So to get started, we can talk a bit about what is product management in the job that I do, to give you a context of how different it is in different organizations or different setups. So different companies across the world use different titles to refer to this role specifically, or what a product manager does. So it's best, if you're applying or if you're even just interested, to read through the roles and responsibilities and the expectations in detail, so that you can get a good idea of what exactly you'll be doing or what the role demands. So for example, a company like Apple refers to them as program managers. At Google, they're sometimes called product managers or technical program managers. So different companies call it different things, but the discipline in general is referred to as product management. So for me, in my current role at Microsoft, I work on the Outlook mobile product. That's the email client that Microsoft has. And my role is the typical or the classic product management. So I'm in charge of several features on that application, building them, adding new things to it, leading the engineering teams that do this work, coordinating across different parts of the organizations in case we need something done in relating to the product, owning the strategy and the vision, and even the execution and the roadmap for how my features or the product that I'm working on will be executed, and then making sure that the standards that the organization has set up for different software products are met. So I'm the one who will coordinate with doing security or privacy reviews, and then making sure whatever we are shipping out to the end user or the customer meets the standards that the company has set. So this is like the most common type of product manager role that there is out there. There are others in different companies, like product marketing manager, which deals mostly with handling the users and doing more of the marketing and the PR for the role. There's also like backend product managers who do very technical and would handle things like developer relations or onboarding other users or engineers onto a technical product. So it varies from organization to organization. And just a fun fact, when I was applying for this role, it was advertised as technical program manager. When I started the job, the title was program manager, and then last year they changed it to product manager. But what I've been doing has not changed over the years. It's remained the same, even though the title has changed. So that's just to emphasize how the title might be different, but what you're doing is what's most important to understand. Okay, in case you have a question, as I said, just put it in the chat and then I'll answer them once we get to the end. So what is product management? So the definition that I find the best is that product management is the practice of strategically driving the development, market launch, and the continued support and improvement of a company's product. And I think a couple of you have put this in the chat when we did the icebreaker. It's basically leading or overseeing a product from the time it's conceived in the strategy stage up to the time that it gets to the customer, and even after that, maintaining it, adding new features, or even deciding if a time comes when you want to pull the product out of a market. So that is what product management is. Other terms that are often confused or mistaken for it is product development. So product development is a complete process of taking a specific product to market. So product development is the process itself. Product manager is the person who leads that process or oversees that process. Project management is also another term that is even older than product management, but this one refers specifically to the process of steering a project. So it could be a software project through its life cycle. So a project, how I think of it is, a project could be encompassed within a product. The product could be Microsoft Teams, for example, and then a project on Microsoft Teams would be creating a feature where people can share their screen or where people can add reactions to other people's chats. So a project is a much smaller part of a product in itself. So project management is where you'd be working on something and the time or the life cycle of that comes to an end. But for product management, it's much wider and spans a much longer period of time. I know there are a couple of other terms that are usually interchanged or confused with this. So in case you know others, you can put them in the chat and then we'll go through them later on. So what exactly does a product manager do, or what is product management in terms of your day-to-day roles? I like to think of it as the intersection between the user experience and the customer-facing side, the technical bit, and also the business part of it. So as a product manager, your job is to be the person who brings in the needs or the requirements of a customer into the product planning phase, and you're the person who expresses those needs and embodies those desires so that we make sure that the product that is being built serves the needs of the people it will be used for. So a product manager is someone who has skills that cut across different sections of the industry. So you have the business skills to be able to know what are the marketable things that we should add on our product to make it sell. Are we building something that the users actually want, or we're just building it because we think it will be nice? To have the technical skills to know what kind of software would be best for this, or what stack, or things like that. So I find that especially if you're going to be a product manager working in the tech space, it's important to have some sort of basic technical knowledge, because every day you're interacting with engineers, developers, data analysts, designers, and there's all these complex technical things being discussed. So having the technical knowledge would be beneficial to you because you'll be able to have a better understanding, and even in terms of decision making, as a product manager, you'll be able to make better decisions because you have the understanding of what exactly the tech is behind your product. In terms of the user experience, you also have to be someone who understands what makes up a good product and what is considered a good user experience, a good user interface, and something that is pleasing and a delightful experience to the customers. So most people refer to product managers as the CEO of a product, rightfully so, because you're the person who is in charge of the strategy and the vision. You're in charge of the product roadmap. You're in charge of defining the features and also on how it will be executed. So in terms of the strategy and vision, even before you come up with a product, so we'll take the example of a completely new product that you want to introduce to the market. A product manager is the person who will sit down and do the research and find out what exactly are the needs in the market. Are there any other products or even just features that could meet this need in one way or another? Are there any other companies or people doing similar things? So you're the person to do the research and come up with the business justification for why your product should be built and which specific needs it addresses. And then you come up with the strategy and the vision for that product. And then now this is what will enable the organization or the stakeholders to buy in and now give you the resources and the funding you need to actually start building your product. So a product manager also comes up with a roadmap. So a roadmap is basically saying, we want to build a new mobile application for calls, for example. This is the timeline that we're looking at. These are the different achievements or the different milestones that we want to have along the way. If we want to start with minimum viable products, these are the basic features that has to have. These are the incremental features that will add over this period of time. So you're the person who handles that process in terms of how the product is built over what period of time and the deliverables at each stage. This is not to be confused with a project manager who I know handles a lot of the day-to-day tasks and the timelines of a product. So as a product manager, you're the one who handles the roadmap in totality. I hope that makes sense. You handle the roadmap in totality and the timelines, but the day-to-day things like setting up a stand-up or setting up a meeting where people come in and give their updates, making sure this person is delivering on the things they said they will do. The day-to-day tasks like that would be maybe a project manager. And then a product manager is also in charge of feature definition. So a feature here, as I've explained, is a smaller part of the product. So like on Microsoft Teams, where we're using today, one feature could be the chat feature. So as a product manager, you can either depending on the level of skill and your years of experience, you can own the product in totality. So you can be owning Microsoft Teams, or you can be owning the chat feature, you can be owning the video feature, you can be owning the reactions feature. So as a person owning that, it's your responsibility to define that feature and say, what do we expect from the chat functionality? Should people be able to see other people's names? Should they be able to react when someone posts a chat? Do we want to have a timestamp there so that they can see what time a chat was posted? Should users be able to copy or reply to a chat? So you're the person to define what exactly the specific features of your product should have, and then communicate this to the engineers who will now be building this. And then once you've done all of those things, you're also in charge of executing and leading. So oftentimes you'll be working with either one or several engineering teams. So you're the person who's in charge of leading these engineering teams to make sure that the strategy that you have and what you had envisioned for this product is brought to life. So this shouldn't be confused with the role of like an engineering manager or a technical lead, because your role here is just to make sure that what has been created by the designers, what you've envisioned in your feature definition is being brought to life. But the day-to-day engineering tasks, like if product pull requests need to be reviewed or things like that, those are things that would be handled by the engineering manager or the tech lead. Okay. So I think it's also important to talk about what a product manager doesn't do. And one of the things that they don't do is they don't write code. And I think I saw a question like this in the pre-submitted questions. So as a product manager, again, depending on your background and how you got into product management, you could have the ability or the skills to write code, but in your day-to-day job, you're not really required to do so. So as a product manager, you're not the software engineer, you're not the engineering manager. As I said, your role is just to define the product and lead how it's executed. If you have the know-how to read through code and see what looks off or review something, that's really good for you. But again, it's not a requirement to be able to perform your job effectively. Something else that product managers don't do is project management, which is assigning the day-to-day tasks, assigning resources. So a good enough organization or a company should have someone or some sort of structure in place for that to be done. So for example, like where I work, we don't have project managers per se, but the day-to-day running of the engineering teams is done by the engineering manager. So they're the ones who set the meetings, follow up on the backlogs, track the tickets and things like that. So as a product manager, your role should always be more high level and focused on the strategy as opposed to the day-to-day implementation of it. So a product manager also is not a designer. They should not create the mockups or the front-end designs or wireframes for a specific product. This is because if you find yourself starting or having to do these things, then it means you're starting to focus on the different processes of the life cycle, and you lose touch with the bigger picture of the product in itself. So it's always good to have people who have this specialization as a skill. So for example, get a designer, get a software engineer to do the designs or to do the actual engineering, so that then you're focusing on the bigger picture and on the execution. So a product manager also should not be the one signing deals with customers or doing the marketing or the public relations for the product. There should be a team or someone else who's handling that. An exception for this, I'd say, is if one type of product managers is called a product marketing manager. So most of the times, this is a product manager who's on the extreme outer end of the development process, I'd say, and they interface constantly with customers, with external stakeholders, and they're someone who should have some level of marketing skills so that they can be able to communicate the product and the needs that it serves to outside audiences. So if you're this type of product manager, then it makes sense to be doing that. But if you're just like a technical product manager or the typical feature product manager, then you shouldn't really be focused on the marketing or how to sell this out to customers. So I think we should also talk about what are the skills and the knowledge that you need as a product manager. So most of the product managers that I know actually got into this role from other roles. So either they transitioned from being engineers, or they transitioned from being project managers, or they transitioned from any other industry or any other thing. So it's a good thing when you transition from another industry or another role, because then it means that you have transferable skills that you can be able to bring into your role now, and those would be beneficial. If you are transitioning from another role in tech, then that's fantastic, because you already know how the tech ecosystem is, how the software development lifecycle works. So it will be an easier ramping up process for you into this role. So some of the ones that I think are really essential to have as skills as a product manager is to be able to do research and conduct research. So as I mentioned, one of the things that you need to do is define the vision and the strategy for the product. And the only way that you can do this is by carrying out research in the market, finding out what are the needs that are there currently, what problems are users facing, and then deciding how exactly you're going to address these problems, figuring out, are there any other players in the field building similar products? How different is our product? What differentiates it from all the other things in the market? And then compiling all of this research and presenting it now as your initial business case or your initial justification for the product. Even after that has been approved and you've actually started working on the product and building it, oftentimes you'll need to do customer research to find out, this thing that we've built, is it still serving the needs of the customers? What do the users think about the feature that we added last week? Is it beneficial? Are they having a hard time? So research skills are really critical, and sometimes you'll even need to do like a customer interview or having focus sessions with customers to go through your product if you're launching something new. So having this type of research skills and knowing how to communicate and present your work is really essential. Management skills is something else that goes without saying. It's even in the title of the role. So you need to be able to lead teams or to lead individuals and influence people to get work done and to execute on the things that you want done in your product. So most setups that I've seen, the product manager doesn't have an engineering team reporting to them directly or developers reporting to them directly, but you're still expected to be able to influence these engineers or developers to build your product in a certain way. So it's a really unique type of management or leadership where the expectation is you're supposed to have influence of people who don't directly report to you. So you should be someone who has very good people skills. You're a very good communicator and you can build relationships with people so that you're able to exert this kind of influence on them. The third thing that I think is important is communication skills. As a product manager, in your day-to-day job, you'll be doing a lot of talking, a lot of people interactions, a lot of talking about or communicating about your product, the challenges that you're facing, the wins that you've had over the past days or past weeks, talking to different stakeholders to make sure if you need help from any other teams that you're getting that help, keeping people updated and also doing like daily reports or weekly reports for people to know how the execution of your product is going. So your communication skills really need to be great. And this is one of the skills that you can transfer or bring in from a previous role that you had or another job that you had. So this one is not too difficult. And then finally, I think it's really important to have good decision-making skills as a product manager, because even when you're building the product, at some point you'll need to make trade-offs on certain features and decide this is the one that we'll have to have in the initial version and these other ones can come later. Or at this point, let's say you've built a product and you're looking at the data and you're seeing the kind of interactions that the users are having on the product, then you might need to make a decision to either discontinue a certain feature or to ramp it down and accelerate another one. So being able to make such decisions is also really important. And it's better if these decisions are backed by data or research that you've done from your users or your customers, because then it gives you better ground to make this decision. You're not just making it based on a feeling that you have or a hunch. It's actual insight that you have. So there are many other skills that you need as a product manager, but I think these are some of the key skills. Again, depending on the company or the industry in which you'll be working as a product manager, then the skills vary. If it's a tech job or a tech industry, then I mentioned that having some sort of basic technical skills would be beneficial. So understanding what a software development life cycle is like, what needs to be done during the design phase, during the testing phase, during the requirements analysis phase, just having a basic idea of how things should work. If you're working in healthcare, for example, you need to understand what are the processes in the healthcare industry, who are the key stakeholders in that industry. So depending on the place where your role will be located, there are some specific industry skills that you need to have that will now help you to succeed as a product manager in that role. And then, so some resources that I think are useful as you get into product management. So the first one here is a course called CS50 by Harvard. This one is good if you're completely new to computer science, you're completely new to tech, you're coming here maybe from a completely different role. Maybe you're working as a doctor before or something completely different. This gives you a really good introduction to the core computer science concepts and just helps you understand what exactly is software, what is building software, why do we do it, what are the principles to do it right. It's a free course and it's really, really informative. It will give you a good basic understanding of what you need. Another way of really upskilling or getting the skills that you need as a product manager is to do online certifications or online courses. And these ones are so many. The ones that I've just highlighted here, Udacity and LinkedIn, because I did them and I found them really good. So Udacity has this nano degree program for product managers that takes you from the basics, the complete basics. It teaches you how to create a strategy for your product, teaches you about the design process, development and launch, So by the end of this, I think you'll be skilled enough to start working on something. And then this one for LinkedIn Learning is much shorter. If you just need something quick, you can do over a weekend. It'll teach you the basic skills that you did. This one specifically also talks about handling customers and how to continuously innovate in your product. So that one is good. I have a couple of more resources. When we are sharing out the slide with you later, I'll put them there and then include links to them. So I'm almost getting to the end. Actually, I think that was the end. In case you have any questions, you can put them in the chat, or you can chat so that we raise your hand if you want to ask them directly. In case you want to ask me anything later on, or you just want to connect, this is my LinkedIn profile. You can scan the QR code and then it'll take you to my profile and you can connect with me. All right, back to you, Susan.
Thank you so much, Joy. That was very informative. I've learned a lot. So now we can get into the Q&A session. If you have any question to ask, please just raise your hand. There's this button up here that you can click on, and then I'm going to unmute your mic so that you can ask. Please ask away, guys. This is an opportunity of a lifetime.
Maybe as we wait for the questions, I can go through the ones that had been pre-submitted on Instagram. Let me just find.
Let's do that. Yeah.
Okay. So the first one was by Chepkoech. She was asking, does product management require coding skills, etc.? It's not a requirement. I have a colleague right now who's actually, she was a nurse before. Her previous role was a nurse, and then she transitioned into tech and into product management. So she doesn't know anything about coding. So it's not a requirement for you to be a product manager. But if you have that background, it would be very beneficial for you. And actually, I've found that people who come in with already like the technical background or the coding background tend to succeed very easily as a PM. So it's not a hard requirement, but it's a nice to have. And then someone else is asking, can they be put in a team working with, for example, Python, yet they are not familiar with Python? Definitely. Like for, right now, I'm working with developers who are coding in C#. I don't know anything about C#, but I don't have to, because as I said, you're not writing the code, you're not going into the repositories and changing files and doing things like that. So you can work with teams who write any language or work in any sort of stack, and you should be able to succeed. What are the requirements to be a product manager? I think we've talked about that one. What are the roles? I think we've also talked about that one. What certifications should one have for this job? What are the most important skills? So the job postings that I've taken a look at these days, they talk a bit about having a background in Agile or some sort of Scrum or Agile certifications, which I think are not too difficult to do. So if you're able to do that, then that will be beneficial. LinkedIn, Udacity, Coursera have a lot of courses that you can also do just to get a better understanding. So if you're able to do those certifications, then the better for you. I don't think there's any like a formal undergraduate or a master's program for product management, but if you find one, then go for it. But this is the kind of role that if you can demonstrate your proficiency and that you have the skills, then having a certification will not necessarily be a strict requirement, as long as you can demonstrate based on your previous work experience that, for example, if you are working in a marketing company and you talk about a marketing campaign that you did, how you led that from the time you developed it, how you were talking with external stakeholders, how you are the one to define the timelines, then that shows that you have the skills and the competencies to lead a product in any other industry. And then, is it the same as product development? If not, I'd like to have a better understanding. So as I said, product development is the whole process. Then a product manager is the person who oversees that process. How do I switch to an analytics product manager? I'm currently a senior data analyst. Maybe Susan, you can help with this one.
Moving from data analyst to product management.
Yeah, so they're saying they're a senior data analyst and they want to move to analytics product manager.
All right. An analytics product manager is probably not creating products to probably run some of these visualization skills that we're doing. So I think you'll have a lot of transferable skills like communication skills, because as a data analyst, you deal with a lot of stakeholders. We also do a lot of presentations. We also do a lot of research also as data analysts. But I guess it also depends on the company that you're working on. And also decision making. There's some decisions you'll have to do without consulting your manager. And this is because you're the one who's dealing with the data and you're the one who knows what the data looks like. And you at a better position to make the decision depending on the business problem. So I'd say for starters is if you have a product team in your company, just approach them and ask them how you can be of assistance, because you're already at a very good place. You already have a lot of transferable skills. So it's just taking the opportunity, especially if you have a team there. So just don't start by applying for jobs out there. Start from where you're at. If you already have a job, go to that team, tell them you want to help out. Then they'll probably tell you how you can come in. And then slowly by slowly, you'll just start transitioning into that. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
Yeah, that's a really good advice. And yeah, it's a really good idea to start with where you are, because I'm sure the company that you're at, maybe they're not called product managers, but people who do this kind of a role. So starting by talking to them, if you have some sort of job shadow program, or even just deciding on Friday afternoons, you'll go sit with them and find out what they do, then that will also help you transition a bit easier. So I can see a couple of questions in the chat. I can just start going through them. Kanini is asking, how does a day in your life at work look like? Also, how do you determine what feature to improve or modify, say, in Outlook? Okay, so I'll start with the second part and then walk to the first one. So at the start of every year, or every half year, we usually have a planning cycle where we sit down as all the product managers in a specific team, like in the Outlook team, and we decide these are the features that we want to work on, or these are the things we want to improve. So this could be things that we get from customer feedback. They say they want this thing, or this thing needs to be improved, or it could even be things that we know by ourselves that would be beneficial if we add to the product. So we sit down at the start of the planning cycle and we decide these are the things that we want to work on for the next 6 months. Then that informs the features that we build and the different modifications that we do. So day to day, depending on what I'm doing that day. So let's say if this week I'm executing on a feature, so let's say on Monday I'd have a meeting with the designers and make sure that the designs that are being done are in alignment with what we're doing. If I'm starting on a completely new feature, then I need to write a feature specification document and say why we're building it, what outcomes are we looking for, what kind of input do we need from the other teams. If it's a time when I'm doing a privacy or a security review, then that would be filling the forms or the process for that, and then meeting with the security team or the privacy team to go through the feature or the product and do an evaluation to find out if it's compliant with the standards the company has set. So it's different things every day, depending on which part of the product development roadmap or the cycle that I'm at any specific time. Phoebe is asking which ML and AI certification I took. I did one at Strathmore. I'm not sure if they have it anymore. It was a physical one. That was some time ago, but it was a physical training. So we went to class and then we finished and got the certification. What's the difference between a project manager and a Scrum Master? I'd say a project manager works in the traditional waterfall kind of development process. So if you've read about the software development lifecycle and the different paradigms or how to build software products, waterfall is the traditional one where everything is step by step. You're done with the design stage, then you move to the architecture stage, then you move to the development stage. So I'd say a project manager is someone who works in that process, whereby a Scrum Master is someone who deals mostly on Agile or Scrum projects, where things are implemented in like batch work is implemented in batches. The time is defined either as 2 weeks or a month. So depending on the different software development process that they're using, then that's where the different roles come in. Beryl is asking if I work with data analysts when doing research on a product. Yes, so not only when doing research, but also even during the product development. So at the beginning, when you're trying to come up with the use case or the justification for the product, you need to have concrete, especially for big organizations like Microsoft. They have so many products already. So you really need to have a very strong case as to why this new product is something that will be transformational, it's something that's needed, and it's something that is actually worth investing in. So you work with the data analysts to analyze the data or the feedback that you get from customers from previous products, to get insights that you might have, for example. So like something that we recently added on Outlook Mobile is having sort of a feed where we display documents that you had previously worked on or documents that contacts had shared with you. And that's insights that we were able to get by looking at the data on the things that are most clicked on in emails and seeing that people mostly searched for specific documents through emails. So then that gives you the idea that creating a feature or creating a product where we just surface documents that you've shared with people would be something beneficial. In terms of during the product development process, so often by the time we build something and then we've put it in the internal testing like environment. So before we ship it out like to the external production customers, we usually put it like through the employees themselves have access to it. And then depending on how those numbers are, and we see how many people are clicking on these things, how many people are actually opening your feature and working through it, then those numbers are what determine if we're going to push it to everyone or any changes that we need to make. So for example, something that we track for us is how often items are clicked on the application. So if we've shipped a new feature and we're seeing that the click-through rate has actually reduced, then this will be a very strong indication that even if we think this thing that we've shipped is amazing, the users are actually not of the same opinion. So it's a strong indication that we should either change it or just abandon it altogether. So data analytics and like working on intelligence that you get from data is really important, especially now when you need to make those critical decisions about your product. Cynthia is asking for a complete beginner without a background in any degree. What advice would I give them to start? So the good thing, I think, working in tech these days is that you don't necessarily need a degree. So many people have been able to get roles by just doing certifications online or by even just showing the work experience that they have. So Cynthia, I'm assuming you have some sort of work experience. You've worked in other industries before. So it's all about how you package whatever it is that you've done and show the impact and the kind of skills that you've learned from those roles as well. So just sit down and think about whatever it is that you are doing and put it in light of the skills that are needed for a product manager. Then try and craft your CV or your LinkedIn to sound like product management and those kind of skills. So for example, if you are working in the hospitality industry and there's a time you planned a Christmas party for 1,000 people, then you could say that you met with the customer shared the vision that they had for the party with you. You were able to design a theme or something like that. You communicated with the different stakeholders, the caterer, the designer, the party planner, everything. And then you're the one who managed the timelines for that. And then eventually you reached out to the customer, you asked them, does this event meet what you are looking? So that shows that you have the kind of competencies to be able to succeed in such a role. And then of course, doing online certifications really help, from Coursera, LinkedIn, as I've mentioned, and just giving yourself some sort of idea of what it would look like to be a product manager. Then Bridget is asking, you're saying you're currently in software engineering, but you want to venture into product management eventually. So you first want to master the whole process and get to understand how things work. Plus is still your passion. What do you think of that approach? So I'm not too sure. So you want to first understand the software engineering process or what process? I'm not sure. Maybe Bridget, you can just unmute if it's possible. Or you're saying, so yes, software engineering. So I think if you're currently a software engineer, then you have a very, very good understanding of how the tech ecosystem works, the different processes that go on when building a tech product. So if it's something that you genuinely want in the near future for yourself, I'd say don't hesitate too much, or don't feel like you need to delay it out or wait until you've mastered everything. There's no time when you'll say you've now mastered everything completely. Even if you've been working for 6 years or 10 years, you can't say I've perfectly mastered this craft. So as long as you see you have some of the basic understanding of what it means to work in that role, then I'd say go for it. Start applying for different product management roles that you see. That will also give you an understanding of what are the skills that are required, what are the expectations of a PM role, and even putting yourself in that environment to interview and to defend your experience and defend yourself and your skills also kind of fine tunes you towards that role. So I'd say just get started. If you can sit, if you're already working as a software engineer, then I assume there are some product managers around you. Set up a meeting with them, ask them what it's like, ask them what they think about transitioning from software engineering and what are the skills that you need to learn, what are some of the skills that you can already transfer that you know, and then just get to it.
Okay, Joy, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So to add on to Cynthia's question for complete beginners. Okay, so somebody without a background in any degree. Okay, they go, let's say some of the resources you shared, they do a certification or two. Then is there any way that you can do a project related to product management? You see, like how data scientists and analysts have access to random data sets that they can use to analyze, and then they put that in their portfolio. So for someone who doesn't even have work experience and is starting from scratch and has just done the certifications, how can they go about that just to show that they have that knowledge?
That's a good question, because actually, even for me, when I was transitioning from solution architecture into product management, that's a challenge that I saw and I felt, because it's hard for you to do a project and come up with a profile for yourself and say, this is the thing that I've built, or this is the thing that I've worked on. So what really worked on for me is getting mentorship. So finding people who've been working as product managers, they're already senior product managers, and having them like guide me through the process. These days, I've seen a couple of product management internships that you can do, or even if it's not an internship, just an entry-level product management role. Usually they know that you don't have experience working as a product manager before, but they're able to teach you and you get a better understanding of what product management is. So I know this is not like the typical tech job where you can build your own portfolio and then use that to defend yourself in the interviews or like to show. But as I said, if you can craft your CV or your LinkedIn very well, then with whatever work experience that you have, or if you're a complete beginner, even in tech, there's a certain way that you can show that you have leadership skills, communication skills, research skills. And then now when you're writing your cover letter, this is the time that you now show how those skills that you have could be transferable to a product manager role in whatever other industry that you want to work in. So I can see Bridget has added that she's she's in her final year doing a degree in IT. So that's actually a really good place to be at, because it means you're just starting out. So I'd say maybe take a look at the internship positions that you see for product management, or even if you're a software engineer and you want to get into a software engineering internship, that's also okay, because it puts you in that environment where you'll also be working with product managers and you can learn and see what they do day to day. At the same time, also take the certifications, and then if you'll have joined as a software engineering intern, then see how you can now start transitioning and pivoting towards product management.
Okay, thank you. I think that's clear. Anyone else with a question before we close for the day, for the weekend rather? No? Okay, thank you all for joining this webinar. I hope now you have a better understanding of what it takes to be a product manager and how to succeed and the skills that you need. So if you have any follow-up questions, you have Joy's LinkedIn. I will also send you a copy of this slide that she shared with us, which has all the resources that you will need to start. If you need to do any certifications, it's going to be on the slide. So I'll send it to you for your email, through your email. Thank you again, guys, and I hope to see you on my next webinar. It's been really nice to have you, Joy. Thank you so much